If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode.
Welcome into the Level Up Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me once again, I've got Josh. Josh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Spring is sprung. The weather is starting to change. It's only kind of sort of frozen in the morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I know you hopefully your allergies will cooperate with us for the rest of this podcast here, but we shall see.
No guarantees at all. I was sneezing as much as I could before we started recording, just in case. Trying to get it out there. Do I sound all stuffed up? Because I feel
just slightly congested. No, otherwise I'm doing good. Everything's going well for me. Got a lot of things coming up here in the coming months in terms of travel and other stuff like that. So I'm excited.
Sounds fun. Yeah, spring is like, it looks so nice. It's not frozen. Everything doesn't look dead. But part of that is, in fact, yes, all of my allergies go up to 11. So I find myself in the springtime spending as much time as I can indoors. And, one of the things that I do in the spring, I consume as much media as possible. I've watched 2 full-length movies this week. I've got TV shows in the background while I'm doing my job, just to have stuff on. We watch shows when, after the kids go to bed. I try and read, but with my allergies, my eyes, it's hard to focus on things sometimes. Plus, I'm getting old, Aaron.
You're getting old, yeah.
I'm getting old. But I get to play some video games when I can, and I think it's important. I've said a lot. I've said quite a bit about stealing stories from as many different places as possible. But there's so much other things that you can pull from this media that I think is really important to how you tell a story. And I'd like to talk about that.
Yeah, and we've talked about pulling stuff from media before. But I mean, I think this here is just, what are you learning from new media? I mean, there's always, there's always some evolution of media, and what do you take from it, and how do you find that new inspiration? I mean, there's always somebody's always doing something new, or they're just rehashing nostalgia. But whatever it might be, you can get a little bit of something extra out of the media. And so I think you started, actually this whole conversation started at a brewery where you started asking me what games I've been playing lately.
Yeah, because we had talked about this before. Even before that, I had played through, my kids bought me for Christmas, Visions of Mana. Okay. The latest in the Mana series. I remember this from when I was a kid. Secret of Mana was great. And it really captured a lot of that same sort of nostalgia with a new shiny 3D fantastic package. Was a lot of fun, but storyline itself was its own thing. One of the things that I noticed, and we had talked about, was that there was a disconnect between the story and the tone of the game. Some really dark things had happened in the game, but the music was bright and cheerful. And the characters were responding oh, it's really terrible that blah, blah, blah died. My best friend, my childhood friend. Oh, darn. And it was so weird. And it really got me thinking, this is one of those lessons that you can take away from a game that you're playing. Hey, if I'm writing a story, if I'm going to be telling a story to my players, I better make sure that the tone that I'm aiming for is sort of consistent in the environment they're in. If you want them to feel sad, maybe don't put it in the middle of an amusement park. Like happy fun times and bells and whistles and just shiny happy things going on at all times. It can be like a sad time, and you can sort of dwell in that sadness. Emotions and storyline should sort of resonate in not just the actions that are happening, but the environment they're in and how the characters, NPCs, music, placement, like everything you describe should match that tone to really drive home that emotion.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. You want things to be consistent within your story. You don't want to have again, the roller coaster of emotions is always awkward, like especially if you're trying to do something that just doesn't match up. And tonally in a game when you're playing it, if you're goofing off and then you try to have a really serious scene, they tend to land flat, or people don't take them seriously. So, setting the right theme for your game overall as the starting theme is going to help you get your best out of it. And I think that's a good lesson probably learned there, which is don't be like wildly off base with your theme. Doesn't mean that you can't have some silliness and a serious story and all that other stuff. Like you need to have levity to break up, your story and make it all, make it all come together. But, it doesn't make sense if you just thematically have not aligned with like the delivery of what you're trying to express.
Yeah. And it works the other way too. As a great man once said, it can't rain all the time.
Yes, it can't rain all the time.
But that's sort of the tone that I wanted to go for tonight's discussion was, talk about the things that we've consumed and what we can learn from them. And I wrote down a bunch of stuff because I've been busy because, like I said, I can't go outside.
Yeah, I can see that. I know of the two games here that you've worked through. You gave me a quick rundown of one of these other ones. I didn't know you had done any of these other games.
Yeah. Some of the games that I've played are real simple, and some of the games are more complex. I've played through. I recently played through Sea of Stars, and this is a game that I've had in my bucket for need to go through this and play this for a while. And this is, I think, the one that we were talking about when we were at the brewery.
Yes,
we were sitting down, and you had played Sea of Stars a little bit. I don't think you beat it, right? Or did you?
I got about halfway through the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I put it down.
And I really liked the tone of it and the style of it. And honestly, I liked how easy it was. It was real. The difficulty curve on it was very low, but it also had options. You could turn things on or to make it easier, or you could make it harder. And I thought that was really nice. And, the game is designed to be very much like Chrono Trigger. Or even it had some aspects from Super Mario RPG, where you do more damage if you hit the button at the right time, right? You get that little extra hit. And those old Super Nintendo RPGs were so instrumental in my journey as a game master, as a storyteller, as somebody who likes RPGs, that it really hit all those nostalgia buttons. But you can't just do all nostalgia. That won't get you anywhere. You have to actually have a story. It has to go somewhere. You have to feel like you're doing a thing. And there was a point early on about where you were saying, when we talked about this before, that the story sort of falters. And I think I stopped playing there for a while too. And I came back to it, and it caught back up. And the rest of the story was a lot better. It really got me through things. So I think the couple of lessons to be learned from this game was nostalgia's great, but the story needs to be there. Otherwise, you're just going to give up. You're not going to go anywhere. But sometimes pushing through a slow point can lead to great rewards. So, give your players an incentive to keep going because stories ebb and flow. They build up and they slow down, and sometimes those slowdown parts, they can be like, oh, we're done, we don't want to do this anymore. But hold on, there's still more to go, sort of thing. Give them the incentive to keep going, so you can build up to that big port.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. You don't want to. You definitely don't want to end up in a position where you resolve it. This is sort of the trick with like an ongoing game or a sandbox style game, is that like you're gonna get to a point where you have like major wins, and it's gonna feel like, well, this should be where the game logically ends.
Yeah.
And it's you have to really, really think about how you keep your players engaged going into that next step, like as you succeed in like some of these major situations.
Yeah. If you haven't played the game, there's a spot not early on, maybe like a third of the way through, that it's been built up the entire first third of the game that this is the big bad guy you're going to face. And then you face him, and that's over. And you're like, okay, but like the rest of the game really builds upon that and expands on the history and the lore and all the fun stuff. But if you are taking it at face value, you have to like ebb and flow sort of thing in a game. So you had, instead of Sea of Stars, you had played that other game. I picked both of them up.
I had played Chained Echoes. This is long before you played CS.
Yeah.
They both came out right around the same time originally. Chained Echoes was more of a. They're both throwback RPGs that try to iterate on the formula, like it kept true to being an old RPG, but also like change things about being an old RPG. And in Chained Echoes, I think what they did is the thing I took away from it was that in Chained Echoes they sort of rate limit you in terms of like how powerful you can become at any given point in time. And although you can become, there is a little bit of like wiggle room that lets you become more powerful than like where you are within the story. I think one of the fun things about RPGs is a little bit of power fantasy within them. And so, speaking about how balance works in a game, I think that's really what I end up taking away from it, is like, how do you get the balance that you want to get out of a game? Like, what does that look like? And how do you balance player progression versus, the actual like engagement of like what they're encountering along the way? I know there's a lot of systems that can do that, like in D&D. There's like a really complicated yet simple formula where you can just plug in your players and their levels, and it'll spit out a random encounter that's, appropriate for them or whatever.
Yeah. And the CR rating on encounters is I haven't seen the numbers since the new Monster Manual, the one that just came out this year. But I understand that the new book with the new Monster Manual, you'll get new encounters because they've increased all the hit points and all that other stuff just to make it so that those encounters are more equal to where you expect your players to be.
Yeah, again, that's sort of what they try to do in Chained Echoes, and I think that they did it very well. I'm not like critiquing the game. I don't think that was a knock against the game. It was just a very interesting way of like, how do you balance that problem? And that's what you kind of get through Chained Echoes.
So right after I beat Sea of Stars, I had mentioned this to you, Aaron, and you had said about Chained Echoes. So I hopped into that game because I had picked them up both at the same time. And I got, as I'm sure a lot of our listeners have, and I'm sure you do too, a bevy of games in your Steam library that are waiting to be played at some point because you picked them up on Steam sales or from Humble Bundles or any number of other things. I have like a couple hundred games in there that I've got to get through at some point. But I figure that's what retirement's for, right? And I tried playing Chained Echoes, and I got maybe like 30 or 45 minutes in, and I couldn't keep playing. And it's not because it was bad. It was because I had just spent some 30 hours in Sea of Stars getting everything, like 100%ing the game. And I think that the similarity in the games with the complete dissimilarity in art and control style, like, just put me off. And what I got from that, and I want to, like, I wrote down, was you need a palate cleanser.
Yes. If you've done something that you've invested, obviously in a video game, it could be like, 25, 30 hours, upwards of 60 hours, whatever. You think about
But
your
in a tabletop game, it can be years.
You think about your game. You've been playing that probably, could be anywhere from 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, depending on how like intense or how long the game has been. You do need to change things up. Like it's always going to be the thing where like it's at some point you need to break the cycle. You can't keep hammering on the same style of game, same tone in the game over and over and over again. Otherwise, the next game you pick up, like when you pick that up and you try to do it again, it doesn't land as well because you have all these like really strong, vivid memories of what you just completed, and everything else just feels like it's like finishing like a really good can of like Coca-Cola, and you're like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna try this other can of Coca-Cola. You're like,
or like,
I'm good right now.
I was so thirsty, and I drank this can of Coke, and I was still thirsty afterwards, so I opened up a can of Pepsi. And, my God, it tastes slightly different, and that was horrible. But if I had started with the Pepsi, it would have been fine. It's just one of those, like, it was just off enough that I couldn't... I will get back to it. I've been playing some other things since then, or, I've got some other media that I've consumed since then. I'll get back to it. It's just one of those. I needed to take a palate cleanse.
I think one of the other things I've learned from having played a good number of games and like picking up new ones and all that is that there's so many new ones that come out that you think about like the purchase, like when you purchase them and like you buy a new game after finding reviews for it and trying to find things that you like. If you really don't like something, and this is the same thing in like your like the game that you're playing or like trying to tell to your players, if you really don't like it, like you don't like the system or you don't like the story that you're telling, or your players just aren't engaged with it, find an endpoint to it and let it go. It's not worth your time to try and oftentimes it's not worth your time to try and salvage the game. Okay, there's a few reasons why you might want to salvage a game depending on how long you've been playing it just to get it to an endpoint. But I'd only say salvage it to the point where you can land the plane, basically.
Yeah. You are not required to keep doing anything you don't like. Yes. I will throw this caveat out there. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean one of your players might not. Like, I have told a couple of stories where I thought, like, I don't think that went well. I don't think that like landed properly. But I heard afterwards that some of my players really enjoyed it. So what I did, I went and asked them, what was it about that you liked? Because sometimes those things that you learn from that, like, okay, yes, that did well, but the parts I didn't like, I was focused on more than what they were focused on.
Yeah, but it's a little bit different. It's like I told games where I didn't feel like it was a great story at the end of the day, but I finished the game because I had it planned out. We got to the end of the game. And my players were all like, I like this, I like the game, I like the story. So like, something about that lets me take away like, okay, these are the things that like you said, these are the things you liked about the game. I'm talking about like you absolutely despise the story you're telling, and your players are also not engaged with it.
Yeah.
So, like there's a distinct like difference there. And again, even if your players are engaged with the story, if you hate telling the story you're telling, that doesn't mean that you have to keep telling the story. You just have to find a way to end it. So
Yeah. That's fair. Speaking of stories. No, not speaking of stories at all. I was playing a game called Tamitsi. I picked it up on the Steam spring sale for like $2. And it is literally Minecraft. I'm sorry. Scratch that. Reverse it. Minesweeper.
okay. Minecraft.
Not Minecraft. Minecraft. No. Kids keep wanting to play Minecraft and then they just drive me nuts. Minesweeper. And Minesweeper, it's you get like numbers on a board, it tells you how many mines are nearby. You click on the ones that aren't mines, you mark the ones that are mines with flags. Real simple, stupid game. A lot of fun. For when you're like, just trying to be brain dead. This is not that. It takes all of that, it gives you different shapes, it gives you different layouts, and it gives you clues like on the outside of the board or on the inside of the board. There's different levels of it. It is like an elevated version of Minesweeper. And I know you're sitting there thinking like, well, what sort of stories can I learn from Minesweeper or a Minesweeper-like clone? Like, no, it's about puzzles. And I like to have puzzles in my games. And the one thing I was playing this and I'm having a lot of fun. I'm like 70 of these puzzles in there. And these are simple puzzles. These are things that I would expect most people to be familiar with Minesweeper. That you can take a simple idea, a simple puzzle, something that is ubiquitous or just like understood, and elevate it by giving it a twist, by iterating on the design. And in this case, they changed the format, they changed the setup, they give you like different colored squares that you're going through or external clues, and you can take that and put that into your story, into a dungeon, into a riddle, into a mystery, or whatever it is. And using common puzzles in interesting ways, it's fun. It's just fun.
Yeah, I mean that's always true. I mean, again, being able to add anything that helps you come up and iterate on better puzzles is a good thing. Because again, it takes the right, as we've mentioned before, it takes the right player base to like puzzles. But like, if you can come up with clever puzzles, and like if this helps you divine better puzzles, then I think that's always a good thing.
Yeah. Also, the thing I like about it, and it doesn't necessarily mean, I mean, you absolutely do want to put this in your games, but like, they let you know very early on, like when you're loading the thing, that unlike Minesweeper, none of their puzzles need to have guesswork in order to win them. You don't have to guess. Every single one of them has a honest solution that can be gleaned from the clues.
Technically, you could do that with Minesweeper too, if you understand.
No, because you'll get spots in Minesweeper where like it could be A or B, and there's a 50-50 chance and no way to tell between the two of them.
No, you just haven't gone through the rest of the puzzle yet.
Trust me, it is a possibility because those maps are randomized. In games like this, these are the set maps. Regardless of puzzles, if you don't like puzzles, I've also been playing Final Fantasy 3. I picked up
original Final Fantasy 3, like Final Fantasy
Yes.
6 3, or
No,
is
no,
it
no.
okay?
3.
Okay.
So they released the Pixel remasters
Yep.
of like 1 through 6. And 3 is one of those ones that I never finished. Like I played like a fan translation ages ago. So I've been replaying it. I always want to play through each one of them. I've beaten 1 and 2 of the Pixel remasters. I'm on 3. And it's just a Final Fantasy. There's nothing fancy about it. I just like the idea. Have you ever played 3?
I have not played 3.
Like it's the first one that has a job system, and it's got your characters are just sort of like generic nobodies like they were in 1, but you can pick and change their jobs on the fly. It's fun. But the thing that I liked the most about it was, and this is more of a story thing that I'd like to steal rather than a gameplay style thing, was they start out on a continent that's floating in the sky that has its own ocean. And for like the first part of the game, you have no idea that this is like a small little island that you're on, because you're on an island in an ocean on an island that's in the sky. It's just like a mind trip, because like they're all having their own time, and you feel like nobody really understands that there's a whole world down below you that you're completely separated from. And I think that's a cool concept. I think that's fun for a story idea. Is the sort of the what's that thing? The Plato's cave, where the people are shown images on the wall. They don't understand that the sun is, they're just shadow puppets. There's a world outside, sort of thing. That's a cool concept for starting a game. Is that people are in a place, they don't understand anything outside of where they're at because it's separated, and your players sort of break out and understand the world, the larger world, and the more things that are going on, and it can be fun that way.
Yeah, definitely. We got Balatro on here.
Yeah, I picked it up because game of the year, because gotta love games, just games. It's another one of those, like, there's no story to be had here, but it's fun. Why is it fun? It's a rogue-like deck builder-ish thing. And I think the thing that I learned from it was it can just be fun to make those numbers go crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could take away from that is that, there's a time and a place where you make your characters overpowered, and you let them crush some bad guys with some serious damage. You just let them wail on things.
Synergy. One of the big things in Balatro is that you get like these jokers and they interact with each other. and the interaction of the jokers makes the numbers go even bigger. And if you are not concerned with your character's power level because you're having a good time, giving them items that interact with items they already have, or items or like skills that interact with each other, different players, like player A and player B and player C, and they just like sort of chain off each other into bigger and bigger things. Man, that can be a lot of fun, and your players are going to love that. They're going to feel powerful. They're going to feel like they're working as a team. The numbers are going to be huge. You can throw giant things at them. Could be a lot of fun.
Okay. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, again, there's a lot of interesting things that you can do with that. And again, it's always good to include that bit of dopamine in any of your games. Like there's a place for it in any of your games, and there's a lot of ways you can execute that, even if you're not playing like a power fantasy game where like everybody becomes godly powerful. Like you just wail on some like mooks. So
Yeah, absolutely. Like armies of mooks, big piles of them that just show up randomly in the woods. What sort of games have you been playing, Aaron?
Yeah, so I've been playing a lot of Path of Exile 2. So much Path of Exile 2, in fact. I've been really, really enjoying the early access for it. And I'm trying to think of like besides like the standard like ARPG elements that you kind of get, where like you get like the reward system become more powerful, and like there's a power fantasy associated in that. I like that. But I think that the variety in how the other classes play and like what you can do, I think you have to sort of dive deep into like you have to dive deep into one class to sort of understand how the rest of them work. And I think it's just very, very fun, because I remember playing with it, and a lot of people have talked about how it's two separate types of games, and I'm like, actually, if you kind of understand like the workings of it at the beginning of the game, like it's actually not that far off from like the beginning of the game, because there's a lot of power at the beginning of the game as well. So you just didn't know what it was when you started the whole game. And so I think the gameplay loop and just being able to give a lot of variety and a lot of ability to kind of build into something powerful, it can be very fun and engaging. I remember doing that in our Elders game when we worked our way from like the werewolves and became elders in the game. And I think that was a lot of fun in terms of just like how you got there and how you sort of shaped your character as things kind of went on.
Yeah, I think I've run into a bunch of games where you start low level, and as it gets to the higher levels, people sort of fade out because stories tend not to last 20 levels. Oh, and I've seen others like one shots or whatnot where you start at like max level, and it feels like completely different games. But you're absolutely right. The function and feel of most games at low levels and the function at the high levels, there's a lot of similar functionality. You just have access to more things at those high levels. So
yeah. So I think that's one of the things that's been very engaging with. It's something that I could take away from it. Another game that I played more recently was I played the newer Prince of Persia, which is the one that's it's like a Metroidvania. If you've anyways played it, and I kind of was on a Metroidvania kick in general, so I was playing a bunch of different ones. But this one popped up, and it was very good. The combat was really engaging, and it had this very intricate set of like platforming abilities with it as well. So the game was super challenging in that regard. So everything that you sort of did as an action felt very rewarding. The story was pretty decent, but I think it was just there's just a lot of like engagement in terms of like the actions that you could perform. And so, what do I take away from that? I think it's being able to give your players, good challenges, things that you can overcome. Often feel very rewarding, and you're going to get that notion when I hit the next game on my list. But
I think that especially with any of those Metroidvania style games, is that giving your players the opportunity to shine, to use their skills and abilities to like overcome obstacles in your game makes them feel like they're having a good time. It makes, because they are. It makes them feel like they're important to that story. So, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and I like the gameplay in that challenging style, and again, you'll get the sense here when I hit the next one. I prior to that, I was playing Elden Ring in preparation for Shadow of the Erdtree, which I haven't played yet, but I will get around to playing it. But I was trying to pick it back up and play it and kind of get familiar with the gameplay of it, so I didn't if I did pick up Shadow of the Erdtree, I didn't just sit there and not be able to do anything. I think the things, and I think back to the first time that I played Elden Ring, the world building within it, even though there is no official real story, the world itself feels massive and alive, and there's always something in it. Like you could go anywhere on the map and something's going on. And I think that you put that into a real game, if you put that into a tabletop game, the things that make stories feel extra good is when your players decide to veer just off your planned path, and everything feels like it belongs. We've talked about adding history to your games, we've talked about adding narrative to your travel, we've talked about adding engaging NPCs, all of that stuff. Don't just if you're gonna do it and allow the players to experience it, have something there. And I think that that's something that Elden Ring does extremely well in terms of also the exploration. There's a lot of reward for going down those different beaten paths. So rewarding your players for going there, having something to pay off at the end of the tunnel is something there as well. And then again, I said it, you guessed it again, but the gameplay is challenging and rewarding. So games, when you tell a tabletop game, it shouldn't be as though you're trying to completely stump your players, but you shouldn't be giving them everything as well. So finding and striking that balance within the game is really, really important. And I think that that's what players like when they overcome, or they realize that the best way to a more optimal way to do something than you originally thought of. I think that that's always super engaging and super rewarding for players. Me as a player, I enjoy doing that, and then as a GM, I can tell that the players really like that aspect of it. So overcoming those challenges in unique and creative ways, always cool.
Yeah. I know we've talked about the rule of 3 before. You get the show one, do one, teach one sort of thing. You get a player, you want them to learn a new thing that they got to do, and you show somebody doing it, then you make them do it, and then you sort of iterate upon that. You make a change to it, you make it different. And that's really fun for starting out some of these puzzles. I think I haven't played Elden Ring, but I've seen a bunch of Elden Ring stuff, and the other the Soulsborne games that goes with it. Is that they take away sort of that first step, because in a video game you die, you respawn, you keep coming back. In a tabletop game, unless you've got your players there with a stack of character sheets, it's probably best to, not just constantly kill them at all times, despite what my players think that I'm planning on doing. But sort of ease them into topics and ease them into puzzle solving, ease them into how to overcome certain puzzles, and then iterate upon that to make it more interesting. Iterate upon situations so that they can use the skills that they've already sort of accumulated so that they can overcome the things that you throw at them and like build it up 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that can be super rewarding. And I think that it's definitely something that we should all take away and use in our games.
Yes, indeed.
Excellent. That's a lot of video games. We've talked a lot of video games.
Yeah, we've probably spent like 30 minutes talking about video games.
Easily. And it's not all video games that I've been playing. I've been watching movies and TV shows. Even sometimes reading books. Have you watched any movies recently?
I honestly can't remember the last movie I watched. I know we've watched a movie more recently, and I don't even know what it is. It's that unmemorable.
You've got 2 very little kids. I can't imagine you're spending a lot of time going to the theater, let alone just like sitting down and watching a movie. And the 2 movies that I've got listed here, I've watched alone. Like Lori my wife wanted to go to bed, and she just like, come to bed when you're done. And I'm like, okay. So I threw a dumb movie on that I knew she wouldn't want to watch. And I was rather surprised. I actually did go see 2 movies with her recently. By recently, I mean within the last 4 months. We went and saw Nosferatu when it was in the theater.
Okay.
And we went and saw the Captain America New World Order.
Yep. I remember you telling me that one.
Talked about both of us. I really got nothing to say about either of those. Like, they're competent movies. They didn't like inspire me in any sort of way.
These are passable.
They're fine. Nosferatu I really enjoyed, but like, it's Nosferatu. The 2 that I want to talk about, and I think you can learn a lot more from failures than you can from successes. And I think that's really where these come in. The 2 that I watched recently were Gone in 60 Seconds and The Wolverine.
Okay.
The Wolverine is the 2015, I think. Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine movie.
Is that the Wolverine's old Wolverine?
No, that's Logan.
That's Logan. Okay.
The Wolverine is the one where he goes to Japan.
I never watched that one.
Yeah, nobody did. It was fine. It was a completely normal movie, but it was like they made Wolverine Origins, which was just absolute trash. And then this one, which was a perfectly fine movie. It wasn't a great movie. It was a fine movie. And nobody wanted to see it. And I watched the whole thing, and it was like there's a bunch of scenes in it that really don't do anything for the story. It's got like a whole opening thing with him living in the woods, and there's a bear, and there's some hunters, and then he gets in a bar fight. It's supposed to showcase like, yeah, even though he's like tried to take himself out of society, he still cares for the little guy. But the little guy is like a 800-pound grizzly bear. So I don't know if that actually works for the story. And like the rest of it is like there's action and there's ninjas and yakuza and it's a love interest that like just shows up, like he just shows up on screen and she's like, but like, I mean, it's Hugh Jackman, so I kind of get it. What I enjoyed out of the movie, out of all of it, was there is a shot near the end of the movie where they're looking down over a Japanese village that the Wolverine is working his way through while fighting ninjas towards the castle. And let's take the Wolverine out. Let's take the ninjas out. Let's even take the castle out. I liked the design of the village. Like, it was just, if you took that one screenshot, I recommend all of our listeners, to go and take a look and see if you can find a screenshot of this village. It's perfect. It's just beautiful. It's yes, it's snowy, it's mountainous, blah 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 blah. But it has like a main road that's sort of winding back and forth, and houses are pushed up next to it in just like this really nice way that you can see where streets are without having to be like, these are streets. And it looks very organic and it looks very natural, and it is just a really pretty way to build sort of a town or a village that you could use in a game. And I know it's a dumb thing to be pulling from like a whole multi-million-dollar X-Men Wolverine movie.
Well,
like,
so there's
shot.
the thing is there is no dumb thing to pull from a movie. Like, you can't be like, I'm going to watch this movie and I'm just going to translate it into a bunch of stuff I want from a game. Like, you might not get anything from a movie you watch, or you might get like, oh, I like this little concept in this movie. I think that'd be cool to iterate on and like work through.
Yeah. And I absolutely agree. Watch anything. Watch terrible movies, watch great movies, but like, keep like a notebook nearby. And if you see something, anything that like triggers something in your head, you're like, wait a second, that sounds cool. Write it down. Because I guarantee those little bits and pieces that, you're not stealing the whole movie. You could be stealing a part from the movie that has nothing to do with the rest of it. And it makes a whole lot of difference in how you're going to build something the next time you go for it. That's not the case in Gone in 60 Seconds, though. There is no part of that movie that is like, this is well done, other than the fact that like, it's such a dumb movie, and it is yet so fun.
Again, like what you get from a lot of movies and stuff, and I will reiterate this, is a lot of them you might not get any inspiration from. Some of them you might get like, oh, I like this music, I'm going to use this music in my game. Some of them you might be like, oh, this town is cool, I like the idea of this town. Gone in 60 Seconds, obviously you're not going to design a game that is Gone in 60 Seconds. You could. Okay, it's a heist game. It's basically what it is. Okay, but like, there are some aspects of the heist within the execution of the heist that you might go, I like these aspects, or I like the tension that's built through this, and so I'm going to do something similar, or I'm going to take this concept, I'm going to make my version of the heist, or I'm going to do something like that. Like, maybe just watching it with the dumb action like makes you go, I got a really good idea for like a beer and pretzels game, and we're just gonna have a great time.
Yeah.
The players are just gonna kick some ass and take names and just
and if you just took like one part of that movie, you don't have to do all of it. You could do like the final car and the whole fight sequence at was it like some sort of foundry, or was it like, I don't know where he's fighting the 2005 Doctor Who in LA or Long Island or wherever he is. And I don't understand what was going on. It was so great. Very enjoyable. Whole cadre of characters doing their own thing, having fun, stealing crap all over the place. It was enjoyable. And sometimes games should just be fun. They don't need to be, you're absolutely right, beer and pretzels is a great style of game. And just because you like, this high fantasy or highfalutin, like, literature for the sake of being awesome sort of story, sometimes you need a palate cleanser. And sometimes that palate cleanser is a dumb beer and pretzels game.
Yeah. Again, this is how you avoid sameness, as we talked about earlier with your video game conundrum, when you went from one to the other. let's go on to uh, TV shows. Since you've been watching so much media, Josh.
God, yes. So my wife cannot sleep without the TV on. She's got tinnitus. It's a thing. So she wants to have like the sound of people talking to be in the background, but it can't be anything she like is interested in or cares about, because that'll keep you awake. And I can't watch anything that I haven't seen before. So if we put on old shows, I can still sleep. It's really nice. So we have all 5 seasons of the TV show Fringe. Have you ever seen Fringe?
I recall Fringe. Yes, I didn't watch. I was not a big Fringe guy, but I know.
Yeah.
I know Fringe.
Well, we're both big fans of the X-Files, and Fringe seems to be like a spiritual successor to the X-Files. And so that's been the latest TV show that we've gone through. Just finished season 4, I think. Heading into season 5. And Fringe is very much like the X-Files in the fact that there is a overarching plot, but there are also episodes of filler, or what's commonly referred to in the genre as Monster of the Week. And I love that. I love that as like new TV shows that come out today in the Netflix era, they buy, instead of a season of television shows for like 24 episodes for a year, they buy like 8. And you have to tell your whole story in 8 episodes, right?
Yeah, again, the true reason for Monster of the Week in the 24 episode season was to get your show syndicated.
Yeah, because you had so many episodes you could fill in, and you needed to fill in. You don't have story for all of them, so you just like throw some Monster of the Weeks in.
In Fringe and a bunch of other shows that ran 24 plus episodes per year, you would often only have 5 of those episodes pertain to the actual story line that goes through.
Yeah. But those Monster of the Week episodes were super useful because it didn't just like deviate from the story and give them something else to work on. A lot of times there was a lot of character development that happened in those Monster of the Week episodes. Those filler episodes, if you will. Because when you're going full tilt story, yeah, you're getting a lot of like storyline information, but you're not giving characters room to breathe, to develop relationships, to sort of show their past or their like how they interact with things, learn stuff, get new skills. You are, on a train going to a place, and that's what you're going to do. No deviations. And I think some of those old TV shows where they've got those filler episodes it's a great thing to think about when you're writing your story, is that if you have a plot that you're building up to like this big, fancy, massive, big bad guy, evil fight, and there's all this story in between, your players may not, they may have to wait for a thing to happen, where they may have like, hey, we've sent word to the team and we've got a couple of weeks before we're going to hear back, or we've got engineers building the super weapon. We've got nothing to do in the meantime. We just got to sit around on our hands and wait. You can just throw random garbage at them. That can be fun. And it can give them an opportunity to shine as characters rather than as big shiny heroes. Development.
I'm blanking on the name of the system now. There's a system in which you play as various superheroes, and like the Monster of the Week formula fits so well with it. Because it's just like overarching story, great. And like I've been part of like a couple stories where people tried it. Aberrant, that's the name. That's the game.
Right. Okay.
Okay. And I've been part of so many Aberrant games where there's just this overarching story, and it's just like, but what are we doing? Like we're people with superpowers. Like why are we not fighting like big evil guys? Why are we doing bureaucracy stuff right now? Why are we pushing paper? And it's like that's like 90% of the game. So like obviously what I think of when you say, Monster of the Week, your players can't just be engaged with story, is in order to get them to like breathe and stuff, that's them going at your story at their pace effectively, or that's your sandbox game. Like that's the players are exploring who their characters are and like what they're encountering as they kind of go along. And so, I think that already fits in well. Like that's something you should take away is filling in other scenes, other combats, other engaging aspects of the game for your players to work with, not all of which have to do with the absolute main story. Maybe some of them have goals to tie back to the main story, but it gives your players some chance to develop and breathe.
Yeah. I have more on Fringe though.
All right, so this has now become the Fringe episode.
It's going to be the Fringe episode now. So, in the show Fringe, there are some parallel universe shenaniganeries and possibly even some time travel issues where storylines get rewritten, histories are overwritten, alternate timelines are interacted with. And what I liked about the show was that each of the seasons, or even sometimes partway through seasons, the style of the show changed. So you get to an end of an arc, and you got the same characters, and they've got the same history, or they've got, a shared history. And even if the world changes around them and a new arc happens, it doesn't have to be the same style of game. They did change the format several times during that show. And even to the point with time travel shenaniganeries, is that if you end up in an alternate timeline, they reintroduced bad guys that they've already defeated earlier in the show back as the same bad guys with a similar but not the same plan, which was fun because it was like things are slightly different and you're expecting them to zig and they actually zag. And that can be fun too. That's sort of like a little twist if you've got a game that has time travel shenaniganeries. I'm going to keep saying that. I don't know why I like that so much. Shenanigans. If you have time travel shenanigans or parallel universes, you can iterate on previously defeated bad guys and make them like a reoccurring issue in a fun way.
Yeah. No, I again, if you are going to add time travel shenaniganery, as you call it, then yes, you can easily. It can be a fix to you making a poor mistake of putting your big bad evil in front of your characters too early. But there's also, it can be fun to revisit an old villain, I suppose.
Yeah, and even if you've got time travel issues, old friends can become new enemies.
That's
because
right,
you don't know what
happens
happened in a different timeline.
our one-shot game ideas. I'm going to call it time travel issues.
I think shenaniganeries is the appropriate term.
I just like the idea of like the game called Time Travel Issues.
Yeah. That actually sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, so I've watched a bunch of Fringe, but mostly while I'm like trying to pass out. I've also watched some Shoresy. Have you seen Shoresy?
No idea what Schwarzy
You
is.
ever-
You said it's
you
a
ever
lot
see-
like
Letterkenny?
no, I've seen one episode of Letterkenny. I tried to watch it with the wife, and she told me
Yeah,
this is
it's
stupid.
It's you either love it or you hate it. It's definitely a taste, not an acquired taste either. It's just a taste you either have or you don't. I've got nothing. There's like no story or stylish, like if you pull anything out of Shoresy, you're going to be making a Shoresy or one of those Letterkenny style games where it's super
Well, again,
Canadian.
this sort of highlights the point that you got from Logan, which is like you can watch a bunch of stuff, and you might not get everything from everything you watch. Like, and not everything is going to be inspirational for your game,
Yeah.
and that would highlight it right there.
And I think it's fine to do. You should be out there consuming media. I don't say that, like, disregard getting things done and just go watch a movie, but like when you do have time to watch a movie or a TV show or read a book or play a game, take the time to notice it.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's the whole point. When you consume things outside of your game, whether it just be life, whether it be stories you read, whether it be stories you watch, movies, things you play, what you should be getting from it is, oh, that seems like an interesting thing that I want to add to my game. Or that seems like a good idea of a game that I'd like to run. Or, oh, I love how this movie was structured, and I'm gonna make a game very similar to it. Or I'm gonna mash this and this, like, oh, this reminds me a lot of this thing over here. I'm gonna mash these genres, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be a lot of fun in my game. Inspiration comes from all sorts of outlets, and I think that's that's the thing is you're just trying to look. The whole point of consuming new media is to be seek out inspiration and enjoyment as well. I mean, it's just you're doing all these for your own personal enjoyment, but you could also take the lesson of learning about new things to do.
Well, and tabletop role playing is not, our job.
Yeah.
It's something we do for entertainment. And it should be fun. It should be enjoyable. It should also have some aspect of art, because it is, in fact, a little bit of art. It doesn't need to be high art. It can be schlocky. It can be dumb. It can be fun. But understand that the things you do in your game and the things that you watch and you consume, they all exist in that space where creativity is a activity best stolen from other people.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. You might even steal it from other GMs who do something that you think is very creative. So
Yeah.
Don't discredit that part of it as well. I haven't really watched any other TV shows, and I thought we were just wrapping it up so well.
Yes,
so
that's fine.
Yeah. I felt like it was so poetic and elegant there at the end. I was like, oh boy, I don't want to have to just reiterate this again in 2 minutes. So
Steal a good ending. That's fine. You can do that also.
I'm gonna steal this as a good ending. Josh, do you have anything else you want to add to this one?
No. Like, just go watch a movie.
Yeah, go watch a movie. Go seek some inspiration from another source of media, and see what you have there.
In fact, if you'd like, you send us a dumb movie that you've seen recently with no qualification, and maybe we'll get inspiration from it.
There we go. Level Up Your Gaming Podcast at gmail.com or facebook.com/level up your gaming. Let us know, and we will take a look at your dumb movie or dumb TV show or whatever you want us to watch. Hopefully it's engaging. But that's going to wrap us up for the week. So, if you like the podcast, we are on YouTube. So smash the like button there, subscribe to the podcast, your favorite podcast site, review it, recommend it to a friend, all those good things. And that'll be it. So for Josh, I'm Aaron. Have a good week, everyone.